Welcome back to another edition of the Pagcast. I'm your host, Michael Pagani, joined alongside Kingston Frontenacs Defenceman Jake Murray. Jake, welcome to the Pagcast. Thank you again for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So, there has been a lot of downtime for all of us, especially for players in the OHL like you. What have you been doing to spend this downtime that we've been in?
Yeah, the first thing for me is my family got a puppy April 10th of last year after things kind of got shut down. So she just turned a year old. She's still a little bit of a handful, but I've been spending a lot of time with her, helping my parents out as much as I can between the gym and skates. And also, my family's kind of gotten back into board games. We've been playing Life, Uno, and Monopoly as well. So that's a little bit of a throwback back to the childhood, but it's been fun.
At least it's something to do because, like we've been messaging, it really is a chore to kind of find stuff to do because after a while, things do kind of get boring.
Yeah, no, we're definitely on the same page there. It's been really tough to continue to find stuff to do day in, day out. Once my day's kind of done at 2 or 3 o'clock,
Oh,
depending
sorry.
on my skates, once I'm home and I'm showered and everything, and I'm kind of winding down for the night, it's tough to find things to do. So I'll usually end up watching some hockey or TV with my family and sitting around. But I think that's just the state of the world right now.
You can only train for so long and so much of the day that, it's good that you're finding other things to take your mind off hockey.
Yeah, for sure. It's been about a 12-month off season now. So obviously we haven't been in the gym the whole time. Gyms were closed for a couple months in total, but it definitely starts to wear and tear on your body a little bit. So having those things to kind of just relax and step away from the physical side of the training and off season is really nice because I'm sure it'd be really easy to overdo yourself right now, and you don't want to go back to a season if we have one feeling sore and stiff.
And have you heard any updates on a potential OHL season?
We haven't heard anything other than what the general public would know. We're still waiting to hear back. Seems to be pretty positive though. It seems to be like there's some progress being made. So I think hopes are pretty high right now.
And as we kind of go back in time to that 12-month off season you mentioned, how did you find out initially that the season was going to get canceled?
Yeah, so we had a practice the Thursday, I believe it was. I want to say March 12th. And it started off like a normal practice. Um, we had a game the Friday, so it was going to be a lighter one, just some flow drills, 30, 40 minutes. But I believe about halfway through, the coaches or our GM got word that our games that weekend were going to be canceled and we were going to be going home for a week. So we just started to play some small area games, have a little bit of fun. And then the Friday, we spent all day Friday kind of just at our billet house. We went to school. After school, a couple of us went out to eat, and then we went home, played some video games for the rest of the night. And then the Saturday morning, we went into the rink. Our GM kind of broke it down for us, told us that we were going to be going home for at least a week, told us to take our gear home and whatnot. And then while we were at home, I think it was a couple days after the week, they told us that we wouldn't be having season, we wouldn't be coming back to finish the season because of what was going on.
I find it crazy that, even though the WHO, the World Health Organization, kind of announced on March 11th that, the world is in a pandemic, we, here in Canada kind of just went as normal life. We were still packing hockey games in the NHL. We still kind of went out to restaurants. We didn't really think of it as, like we do now, where, everything is so shut down in limited capacity.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I think we were a little too late. We kind of probably let things go for a little bit too long, and we didn't quite see the impact immediately. But once we started seeing the downsides, they started to kind of pour down on us. It seemed like, and a lot happened really fast, and adjustments had to be made really quickly as well.
There's been a petition that's been circulating by an OHL player, Andrew Parrott. I signed the petition. I know I got some WHL buddies to sign the petition as well, but it's basically advocating for there to be a season and just the effects of not having a season on the draft status as well as mental health for players. Have you been aware of that petition that's been going around?
Yeah, I signed it myself. I think it's a really good idea. Definitely harmless. Nothing bad can come of it. But I think Andrew made some really good points, especially when he touched on mental health there. That for most of us, hockey's been our life for 14 years now. We started playing when we were 4 and have been training and practicing ever since. So not having hockey for a year has, I don't want to say left us feeling purposeless, but somewhat directionless. Like we don't know what we should be doing with our time because, for so long it was all about hockey training. Everything you did was, oh, well, is it good for hockey? Is it gonna hurt, my season, my training, my health, whatever. So not having something to train for, an exact date to be prepared for, a season to be prepared for, has been a struggle for a lot of guys.
The WHL as well as the QMJHL have started up their seasons. What are your feelings on seeing them play and you guys being still left alone without a season yet?
It's definitely frustrating, that's for sure. Obviously, not just me, but all the guys in the OHL, we all love hockey. Like I mentioned, it's our life. So seeing our peers, guys that are in our draft class and whatnot, seeing them getting the chance to play and develop when we're still at home has definitely been tough to see. But with that being said, them playing is definitely helping our case for starting up a season because they're proving that they can do it pretty well ever since they've started back up again. So the better it works out for them, the better it looks for the OHL.
Getting into your story here, you grew up in Oakville. Did you end up going to see a lot of Oakville Blades games?
Yeah, there was definitely a few years throughout minor hockey where I think it was every Friday or Saturday night. If you wore your Mohawk jersey, you got in for free. So there'd be a bunch of guys from all sorts of different teams there rocking their Rangers jerseys and whatnot. So I definitely made it out to my fair share of Blades games back when they were still wearing visors and could fight more regularly. So that was kind of the hope that you'd go and you'd catch a fight or two. Being 11 and 12 years old, that's kind of the
It
one part of
excites
the
you.
game that you couldn't see. And so yeah, seeing it in person was really exciting because you could go to a Leafs game or you could go to a St. Mike's Majors game at the time, but you weren't guaranteed to fight. But with the Blades games, they seem to be pretty frequent a few years back. So that was the main draw for us.
It's crazy to see the time, just how different times have changed. Growing up, you'd see a lot of fights, but nowadays it's a more skill based, it's a faster league, and fights are quite, less.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. You look at the league now and there's such an immense amount of skill and talent. And like you mentioned, speed. So many guys can just do it all. And you can see it in the offensive production in the league. There's a lot of 1-goal games that end up being like 7-6, 6-5. And that's really entertaining for the fans to see. There's nothing wrong with a 3-2 nail biter as well. But when you can go to a game and you can count on it being 6-5 with back and forth, odd man rush after odd man rush, it's definitely really, really exciting for the fans to see. Sometimes, it's not how you want to play, depending on the team and the roster that you have. But there's no doubt about it that many goals and that much action has been good for the game.
You are a Detroit Red Wings fan. Throughout your just, I guess, hockey fan life, have you made it out to a lot of Red Wings games?
Yeah, I've been to my fair share at Joe Louis, actually. My parents grew up in Windsor, just across the river there. So they were Red Wings fans. That's why I'm a Red Wings fan. I was kind of born into it. But I actually made it to the last game at Joe Louis Arena as well. That was really cool. I have a couple memories saved on my phone of, the post game. The crowd was going nuts. No one was even on the ice. So I mean, that's a pretty historical arena. So I was really glad that I got to make it out to that. That's something I'll never forget. Me and my dad made the trip down and caught that last game. And I don't think I've ever been a part of a crowd or an audience in that type of atmosphere, and I don't think I ever will be again.
It really sucks that, the whole Joe Louis Arena is destroyed. Like there's nothing left of it. And it was such a historic arena filled with so many Stanley Cup wins there, and just the atmosphere was amazing. It really embodied the hockey town, I guess, catchphrase that Detroit uses.
Yeah, you're definitely right there again. I think the big thing with Joe Louis that it wasn't quite big enough. That was also, in my opinion, one of the draws. It was a smaller building, so when it was packed, it was loud, and you could hear the fans, and the atmosphere was phenomenal as well. Concourse, to me, I think it was one of the best in the league. I'm probably a little bit biased. I've been to a few NHL rinks, but I think they've got the pillars like a lot of teams do with different guys or Hall of Famers or current players painted or wrapped on the poles, and it was a little bit outdated, especially the bathrooms, but it was definitely an iconic arena, and like you mentioned, there'd been a fair share of Stanley Cups won there.
Do you model your game after any specific any specific Red Wings, whether it's past or present, or do you just model your game after any NHL player?
Nick Lidstrom is my favorite player of all time, so he's definitely a guy that I really enjoyed watching. I was quite sad when he ended up retiring. I think everyone kind of saw it coming, but he's a guy that I've always tried to look up to, and I got a lot of work to do to be where he's at and play like he does. But he's a legendary defenseman. Not too many other defensemen were as good as he was. There's not many that were better than him. So, and then in terms of current players, there's a lot of guys that are really good players to look up to. Even this year, Jeff Petry's been phenomenal. Victor Hedman, as usual. Roman Josi. I tend to look up to guys who are solid on both sides of the puck and reliable in all situations. And those are just three guys that kind of pop up off the top of my head.
You started your hockey career with the Oakville Rangers in 2017-18, and you tallied 34 points in 35 games. What clicked for you during that season?
I think a combination of confidence in my skating ability as well as my size. I realized that my physical structure was an advantage for me. So being a bigger defenseman and being able to skate well on top of that, I like to use that to my advantage and kind of pick up pucks my own end and control the breakout and join the rush as well. There was obviously some learning curves on when to take chances and when not to. But with the help of my coaches, I've always had fantastic coaches growing up. They kind of taught me the situational, the hockey IQ side of it, and helped me incorporate it with my physical capabilities. So yeah, the big thing for me was my coaches really knew how I played and how I could play, and helped me kind of pick and choose and work in my risk taking, and help me kind of keep it to an appropriate level and not be too crazy.
Yeah, you don't always want to, hold the line when, that you don't have numbers coming back.
Yeah, for sure. Like I mentioned earlier, odd man rushes are a huge part of the game today. And with the amount of skill that there is in the league, any odd man rush is dangerous. So the more you can play it safe when you don't have numbers, and keep a 3-on-2 instead of a 3-on-1, the better. Because obviously there's a lot of guys who can score goals in any league. So the less that you give up odd man rushes like that, the better it is obviously for your team.
You played with the Oakville Blades during that same season. How big of an adjustment was it to jump up to that level?
It was quite the adjustment for me at the time. I played a couple regular season games throughout the year. I think my first one was actually in Buffalo at forgetting the name now, but that was my first game there. That one wasn't too bad. I felt like I actually fit in pretty well. I played a second regular season game. Don't remember who it was against. But then I played, I think it was 5 or 6 playoff games. Mostly it was the Toronto Patriots. That's who it was against. But that playoff series against the Patriots was an eye opener for me. I got hit pretty hard a couple times, got the wind knocked out of me, and there's one play in particular, I think it was in game 5 or 6. We ended up losing 7-4, 7-5. I got bullied off a puck in front of the net, and whoever it was ended up scoring. And I was like, wow, like that's what it's going to be like at the next level. I got to be harder on guys. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you finish. You finish.
Yeah. So at that moment, it was just me realizing that I'm going to have to be a lot harder, a lot stronger on pucks. And going into the offseason, I'm going to have to kind of work my tail off to keep up and close that gap.
Speaking on that playoff point you mentioned, the OHL Cup is playoffs for that entire draft class. You played during that OHL Cup in that season, only totaling 1 point in 4 games. What did other teams do to limit your effectiveness on the ice?
I think they kind of fleeced me a little bit there. I think I had 3 or 4, but either way, like you mentioned, that tournament was like a playoff format for all leagues across Ontario and even some from the States. So there was a lot of talent in that tournament, and there's a saying: the best defense is offense. So in a lot of those games, I was playing defense more than I was used to in regular season against some really good players. The Vaughan Kings had Cole Perfetti, the York Simcoe Express had Quentin Byfield and Evan Vierling. So against teams like that, you're forced to go chase pucks into your own corner and try to break out, or spend a lot more time in the defensive zone. So the big thing there that kind of limited me offensively in that tournament was playing against really good players and having to play more defense and be on the defensive side of the puck and not skating the puck out of the zone and joining the rush.
You just mentioned some star-studded players there. Cole Perfetti, Quinn Byfield, as well as Jamie Drysdale was another player in that OHL Cup. All 3 of those guys are top 5 picks. Does that give you at the time? Did that give you a good glimpse of the future of the OHL?
Yeah, for sure. Especially heading into that tournament, there's always the mumbling of draft rankings and such, and a lot of those guys were ranked really high. That's not something you like to pay attention to a lot, but definitely something that you see and you don't just automatically forget about. And obviously, with how much skill they had in minor hockey, it was pretty easy to see that they were going to make the jump to the next level and be really good players. So at that time, you're thinking about down the road. A lot of guys talking about Byfield being the first overall pick in the NHL draft at the time. Obviously, ended up going second, but still, that's not too bad. There was definitely that feeling that some of those guys playing that tournament were going to be superstars in the future. And Byfield ended up going second, Drysdale 6th, and Perfetti 10th, I believe. So though those 3 guys alone are set to be the future of a couple NHL franchises, and I think that really speaks to the amount of talent that goes through that tournament.
Speaking of the draft, actually in the 2018 OHL draft, you were taken in the first round. What was your immediate reaction to when you saw your name pop up on the screen, or when you watched, I watched the OHL draft, and what was your reaction to seeing your name?
Yeah, I was super excited. Obviously, it was a dream come true. The last couple of years of minor hockey there, that's all you're really working for. Obviously, you want to have fun too, but for most guys, it's a dream to play at the next level. So unfortunately, my agent had texted me like a couple seconds before my name came up on the screen. So I knew a little bit earlier, and my mom's got it on video, but I'd started smiling and kind of gave it away for everyone. But even finding out and seeing my name on the screen, even though I already knew, was it was surreal. I was speechless. I didn't really know what to say. I was so excited. I had my family there, obviously, my best friend, my aunt as well. So being able to live that moment, not only alone, but with everyone who had supported me through it all right there, what was one of the best moments in my life, and something that I still think about to this day.
What did you do to celebrate that moment? Did you go out for dinner? What did you do?
I got a bit of a sweet tooth, so my aunt had brought some baked goods, so that was the immediate celebration there. But I think later on in the night, my family ended up having a really nice dinner at home, which was awesome. And then after that, a bunch of guys from my minor hockey team, the Rangers there, we all got together and kind of hung out as like a last hurrah sort of thing, with some of us undoubtedly moving on from the Rangers organization. And that was that was really fun to celebrate it with those guys that I'd played with. Some of them I'd been playing with for 7 or 8 years. So sharing that moment with not only my family, but some of my best friends, my brothers that I'd made that journey with was really awesome for me.
You played a full 62 game season during your rookie year. How did you deal with, I guess all the pressure that you put on yourself? Because, there is the pressure that comes with, living up to being a first round pick.
Yeah, for sure. The big thing for me was, we were a little bit of a weaker team my first year. So I was being put out in situations that were, completely new to me. I was playing against first lines guys who were first round picks to the NHL. And that the first, I want to say 10 games was a real adjustment period for me. I was figuring out gaps, how to defend guys one-on-one, because I'd never seen this much talent before. So the big thing for me my first year was accepting that I was gonna get beat. I was gonna make mistakes like everyone, and just trying to learn from it, and not put too much pressure on myself, and not try to do too much. Because when you do too much, that's when you start making turnovers, making mistakes. So the big thing for me to keep the pressure off myself and just play hockey was be simple, believe in myself, in my talent, because that's what got me to that spot in the first place.
We can all speak about the negative things, but in your opinion, what were some things that you did positive during your rookie year?
Yeah, there was a few things that I think I did really well at. I was minus 44 in that year, but I don't think that was quite indicative of how I played. Towards the second half of the season, I think I had developed a lot on the defensive side of the puck and playing against some of the better guys in the league. That was something that I carried over into my second year, and I cut my plus minus in half. But I also, as the season went on, I got more confident with the puck. I believe I had 2 points in the first half of the season, and I ended up putting up 6 in the second half. Not massive numbers by any means, but I tripled my production in the second half. So just for me, the thing that progressed as the year, and the thing that I think I did really well my first year was making simple, solid plays and being reliable with the puck. Not throwing things away too much or making too many turnovers.
I guess one of the positive things that, we could mention is that you did get your first OHL goal during your rookie campaign. Do you remember the story of how you scored it?
Yeah, I remember it. I still have the video on my phone too. So it was Brett Newman. He got the puck just over the red line and chipped it around Mac Hollowell into the left corner. And then he made a backhand rim pass around to Jason Robertson, who spun off a guy and started walking up the wall and hit me in the seam on the left side. I did a little fake slap shot, and whoever the right winger was kind of went down. I pulled it back and just took a wrist shot, and it ended up going in on the top right corner over the glove. Honestly, I had no idea it went in. I didn't expect it to go in at all because there wasn't screen or anything. But I looked up and I saw the puck had bounced out of the net and kind of made its way back to the hash mark area. And I didn't really know what to think. I didn't know how to celebrate, so I kind of just put my hands up in the air, and all my teammates came and gave me a hug.
Just a pure snipe show.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty nice shot. Not something that I've done a lot in my 2 years in the league, but I would say it was a pretty nice first goal.
And, did that kind of, I guess, relieve some stress or, take the monkey off your back that you did get your first OHL goal?
Yeah, definitely. It's always a thought in your head, like you just want to score your first goal. You want to stop thinking about it. You want to get it out of the way. I was lucky enough to get my first point in my second game, but it was another 9 games until I scored my first goal. So during those 9 games, it was it's a pretty relevant thought. You're thinking about it a lot, and you just want it to happen because not only is it exciting, you don't want to have to wait until your second year and wait a whole off season to score your first goal. Because one of my buddies did it. It ended up working out pretty well for him, Luke Evangelista. But it's something that you're anxious to do, and the shorter the wait time, the better.
Well, you actually did play with Luke Evangelista during, your time with the Oakville Rangers. What could you say about his play? And, he did get selected in the first round.
Yeah, he from our last year of minor hockey there and minor midget to obviously last year and being selected by Nashville. He not only developed skill wise, but also in the gym we work out together. He worked his tail off as well. He bulked up, put on a lot of weight, and got a lot stronger. And obviously that translates into skating, edge work, balance, everything. So he put in the work and he developed himself physically and also skill wise. And it was awesome to see his hard work pay off and him have such a good season.
You participated in the U17 for Team Canada Red. What was that whole experience like for you?
That was an awesome experience. Obviously, playing with guys from across the country, playing in all sorts of different leagues, was a phenomenal experience. Seeing kind of glimpses of the skill levels and the style of play from the QMJHL and the WHL, that was awesome. And getting to play with, for me, Caden Gooley, who was also a first-round pick, who played in the WHL, was really cool. And obviously, you're there for a couple weeks for camp and then another couple weeks for the actual tournament. Getting to build those bonds with guys from all across the country, like I mentioned, and make new friends was a fantastic experience. And then there's the whole aspect of playing against the best players from all across the world as well. I got to play against Alexander Holtz and Lucas Raymond twice. And those are both guys that went in the top 10 as well. So there's nothing bad to say about that experience. It's something that I'll never forget. I've got my jersey in the closet there. I've got my nameplates on my closet door. So I got a whole bunch of stuff going around in the room from that experience.
And so you just mentioned the nameplates and the stuff they kind of kept from your time with U17 Team Canada Red. How important is it for you to keep those as, souvenirs or stuff to remember later on?
It's super important to me, especially the jersey. That's something that one day, when I'm in my own house, when I'm living on my own or I start a family, that's something that I'm going to want to be, framed behind the bar or something in the basement. As well as the hats, the shirts I still wear to work out with. Just having that memory that every time I see it, I kind of have that flashback of how awesome it was and how much fun I had was really important to me.
Last season, you were named the assistant captain for the Kingston Frontenacs. How valuable was it getting that letter to your jersey?
That was an extreme honor for me, knowing that the coaching staff and management had portrayed that trust in me to be a good leader, as well as the guys in the room, because we did a little bit of a vote to kind of help the coaches and the staff decide. So that meant a lot to me that not only my teammates and my peers, but my coaches and general manager as well saw that in me to be a good leader. Meant a lot to me. Obviously, whether I got it or not, I was still going to do what I could to be a leader and help our team take the next step. But I think it was really awesome, and I'm extremely thankful that they trusted me enough to give me that leadership role.
And you guys had a pretty young team, so it was like you were appointed as almost like a veteran, even though it was only your second year in.
Yeah, you're right about that. We had a really young team. I think throughout the CHL, we were either the youngest or second youngest on average by age. But even later on in the year, when Shaner was given an A and then Nick King was given an A as well, we had kind of a good split of our leadership group. Two were OAs. Shane was a rookie, and I was our first-year athlete, and I was a sophomore. So that was effective in kind of separating the divide between the veterans and the younger players. So having that younger group with younger leaders on that team, I think did a really good job in uniting our room, which is something that is going to benefit us going forward.
During that season, you had 15 points in 62 games. Just how important was it looking back on having your rookie year and then, using that rookie year to your advantage, essentially?
Yeah, having a rookie year where, I gained a lot of experience playing against top players was really beneficial to me because going into my second year, I knew I was going to be doing the same thing again. So I wasn't as intimidated. I wasn't as worried about that. And I allowed myself to kind of focus on the offensive game a little bit more. Obviously, my numbers doubled, basically doubled to 15 points. That's not whopping, by any means, but it was a step in the right direction. That next year I can focus on even more producing offensively, while also being reliable defensively, so that I can contribute to our team, our growing group, and contribute to a hopeful championship run in the next couple of years.
Shane Wright is the face of the franchise for the Kingston Frontenacs since he was granted exceptional status, but it shouldn't go without mentioning Zayde Wisdom as well, who did get drafted in the mid rounds to the Philadelphia Flyers. You both had them as teammates. What are you able to say about their play?
Obviously, they're both really special stories. With Shaner being exceptional status, that's few and far in between in terms of guys who get granted that. And it was pretty evident last year. He had 66 points. He tied McDavid's record for exceptional status points as a rookie. With I think he had 5 or 6 more games to go, and he was I think 10 points off of Tavares. So he's with some elite company, and he's a fantastic player. A guy that probably could get away with without working as hard as he does, but every practice, every time we work out, he gives it 100%. So I think it's not only he's a good role model for other guys to follow. That's why he ended up getting his letter. He's a fantastic player and a fantastic human as well. And obviously with Wiz, I think a lot of hockey fans have heard about his story with the coverage that I think it was ESPN maybe had done, or Sports Center. But fantastic story on his part as well. He's been a fighter from day one, and he's worked his tail off. He's defied odds, and not only did he have a humongous breakout season last year and was a huge part of our offense, but character-wise as well, it kind of shows that never say never, because he's the epitome of hard work, and I think we can all see that in his game. But once you hear about his story as well, and what he worked through, I'm really glad that I've got to play with a guy like Wiz. There's a lot to learn from him.
Shane Wright seems to be on the projection of a Connor McDavid level. If you look at the stats, advanced stats, and like you mentioned, he tied the points for most exceptional status points in an OHL season. When you hear all of that news, when you hear the buzz around Shane Wright, what does that mean to you to be a teammate of his?
Yeah, obviously, there's a lot of people, a lot of young fans already that look up to him, and think he's an amazing player, and would kill for his autograph or take a picture with him. And from time to time I think about that, like, wow, like I drove him everywhere last year. I was his ride. So from time to time you think it's pretty cool being friends with him and being teammates with him. But for the most part, to me, Shaner's a good friend. Like, we spent a lot of time around each other. We work out together in the summer. Obviously, all season we're together. So I don't think about that too much. When I'm with Shaner, when I think about Shaner, I just think of a good teammate, a good friend, and obviously a good hockey player as well. But the big one is him being a really great friend, because I don't want to make it all about hockey for him. He's a human being too. So I consider myself lucky to have him a friend, because he's been a great friend for me so far.
So you were his vet essentially, because that's what I'm getting when you say that you drove him around.
I wouldn't quite say I was his vet. I wasn't really even a vet myself, but we just happened to be I happened to be the closest guy to him, so I'd pick him up for school in the morning and drive him home, just because that's the way the cookie crumbles. You pick up the guy who's most convenient for you, so you're not going out of your way and wasted a bunch of time. And for Shaner, I happened to be that guy who was closest to him.
If the season had continued for you guys, it seemed like you guys were making a push for the playoffs there at the end of the regular season. And, with the things that would have played out, it seemed as though you guys would have played Ottawa in the first round. How difficult of a matchup would that have been for you guys?
Yeah, obviously it would have been a really tough matchup. Ottawa's a really skilled team. They had 3 really solid lines up front, and then a solid decor as well with Hoffenmeyer. It was definitely always a tough matchup against them. They were obviously coached really well with Andre Tourigny. He was World Junior head coach as well. So that would have been a really tough matchup. Best of 7 series, having to play at least 4 games. I think we would have played a couple more. I think we would have managed to steal a couple from them at least. But like you mentioned, it was going to be a really tough matchup. But that was something that we were up for. Even if we ended up losing in the first round, it would have been valuable playoff experience. And I think we were ready to bring our best game had the season finished out and had we held on to that playoff spot.
Because who knows what happens in the playoffs? We look at the regular season schedule, and it shows that Ottawa has your guys' number throughout the regular season, but the playoffs are a completely different animal. And in a best of 7, literally anything can happen.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you're playing the same team over and over again. There's things that can happen in a game that'll intensify the rivalry a little bit. So you never know what could have happened behind the scenes there that could have fired us up and kind of added a little bit more fuel to the fire and really got us going and playing our best hockey. So anything could have happened. I know a lot of people probably assume that Ottawa would have made pretty easy work of us, but I think that we would have made it tougher on them than most people think.
Never count out bottom feeder teams, because like we see in the NHL, like New Jersey's doing pretty well against Boston. Ottawa's doing pretty well against Montreal. So it goes to show that you should never count out any team in any circumstance.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you look at the St. Louis Blues, when they won the Stanley Cup, I think they were last place in the league after Christmas. Last off season, before I headed into my second year, I had the pleasure of speaking to Alex Pietrangelo. He was my coach, Luca Caputi. They played together on the Mississauga Ice Dogs, and he actually had Petra out to one of our skates, and I got to stick back and talk to him a little bit after and talk to him about that year. Obviously, he was the captain of that team, and he went through the whole coaching change, and they went from last place after Christmas to Stanley Cup champions. So, like you said, you can never count out anyone, because especially at the higher levels, players are there for a reason. They're good players, and they can make things happen.
How big of a mentor was Pietrangelo to you?
I only spoke to him the one time, but obviously with the experience that he has, being a pro for so long, being the captain of the Stanley Cup champion, the 20 or 30 minutes that I spent talking to him there was really valuable to me. He shared a lot of really good information and advice with me. And obviously, as a player like him who makes that much money and is as talented as they are, has a lot to say. They've been through a lot as well. And they've played with a lot of really good players who have, passed on things to them. So I just tried to be like a little bit of a sponge in that moment, just soak up as much as I could.
What is your pregame routine?
I like to be really early. First 7 o'clock game, which most games would be. I like to show up at 4:15, 2 hours and 45 minutes before the game. I get there, I take my time changing into my kitchen, my warm-up gear. I'll usually have a snack of some sorts, a bagel or toast, after I've gotten my gitch on, and then I'll spend a little bit of time rolling out and stretching. Then I'll go tape up my sticks. And by the time I'm taping up my sticks, that's when most guys have arrived. So we'll sit around for a little bit. I'll sit in my stall, talk to some guys in the room. And then our coaches last year would come in. We'd do power play and penalty kill meetings, and then a little bit of a meeting for even strength, just to cover some things about the other team. And then after that, that's when the whole team warm up starts. Play a couple games of sewer, and then I'd go get dressed. I'd leave a little bit early because I had to get dressed when the clock inside of our room started counting down. It starts at 40, and you have to be on the ice at 16. So as soon as the clock hit 40 and it started counting down, that's when I started getting ready, and I had to be ready by 22 minutes.
Are you superstitious at all?
I'm not too superstitious, no. I don't have much to be superstitious about. I don't have a tape job that scores me goals or anything. I've only scored 5 in 124 games in the league, I believe it is. But, I like to use the same tape job. I don't like to change it up too much. The only really superstition that I have is I put the left piece of equipment on first for everything. So left shin pad before right, left sock before right, left elbow pad. I tie my left skate first. Because if I don't, it feels wrong. That's the only real superstition I have is I do everything on the left side first.
Did you get the opportunity to play any of the special teams this season?
Yeah, I played a lot of penalty kill. And I played a fair bit of power play. I started the season on the first unit. I went on a little bit of a point streak. I think I had 8 points in 9 games. And then we picked up Nick King, and he took my spot on the first power play unit. Because obviously the year before he had, I believe, 45 points in North Bay. So that was a logical move. And then I was on the second unit for a while. And then I ended up splitting time with a couple guys on the second unit at the end of the year.
How fun is it getting that opportunity to be on the ice, whether it's for a penalty kill, a crucial penalty kill, or whether it's for a crucial power play?
It's a lot of fun. Obviously, in a lot of situations, they're pretty high pressure moments. Penalty kill, you may be defending a 1-goal lead or you're tied and you can't let a goal in. And for power plays, you may need a big goal or you're tied and you may need a go-ahead goal. So being on the ice in high stakes scenarios like that is really fun. The adrenaline can make you a little nervous sometimes, but that's what you live for. Exciting moments like that in hockey.
Speaking on the tactics of the penalty kill, do you guys tend to be more aggressive or more passive?
Last year, we switched up a little bit between a couple different penalty kill systems, trying to find one that worked. So we were a mix of aggressive and passive. But this year, with the Zoom calls that we've had so far talking about our systems, I think we're going to be more aggressive this year for sure.
And does that kind of depend on what team you play? Like, would you be more aggressive when playing against Ottawa, more passive when playing against Hamilton, for example?
I think definitely against where we're going to be aggressive all the time, but there are, I think, the couple teams like you mentioned, Ottawa or even London, who we probably won't play this year, but in a regular year, when they have so much skill, you can't give them any time. You have to be really aggressive and try to force them to make a mistake or, try to force them to make 4 really good passes. And if they make 4 really good passes, then make a backdoor pass for a tap in. You got to tip your hat. Like that's a lot of that. That's really good hockey. You can't do anything about that. But yeah, the more aggressive you are against higher skilled power play units like that, the more likely they are to fumble a pass or you're getting a stick on a pass and deflecting a puck and getting it clear.
What arena do you think in the OHL has the best away atmosphere?
I think the best away atmosphere is either Budweiser Gardens or the Odd. Playing against Kitchener and London on the road, both are pretty wild. Obviously, bigger rinks, a lot of fans in both, and the more fans there are, the louder it is. The more of an NHL atmosphere you kind of feel from the ice level. So those two are really close up there as well. And then other than that, Oshawa is really good as well. From the 2 games that I've played in Saginaw, it's been really good. And Sault Ste. Marie as well is usually pretty wild.
Have you ever played in a teddy bear toss game?
I have played in, I believe, 3. My first year, Sarnia's teddy bear toss game at home was against us. We were on the road. Obviously, we had our teddy bear toss game as well. And then just this past season, we had our home teddy bear toss as well, but I don't think I played in a teddy bear toss game on the road last year. So I think I've played in 3.
And what's that whole atmosphere like when you watch the tens of thousands of bears rain down on the ice?
It's pretty cool. Obviously, you see how many people there are in the stadium, so you can kind of or in the arena, sorry, and you can kind of get a feeling of how many you think there may be. But then you don't take into account that, some people bring 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5. So it's just like a constant rainstorm almost of teddy bears falling, and it doesn't seem to stop for like a good 5 minutes. So it's really cool to see them all fall like that. And obviously the cause behind it is awesome as well. So being a part of those is always a lot of fun. And there's always a competition to see who can score the teddy bear toss goal as well, which is exciting.
What do you think is the hardest thing about the OHL?
The hardest thing for me is we've got really busy schedules between school and how many games and practice we have. Trying to balance schoolwork and hockey and meet deadlines and find time, on the road to do schoolwork and get assignments done has been pretty tough for me on multiple occasions. I'd be doing homework on the bus at 3 a.m. on the way back from North Bay or whatever. That's the big thing for me for sure. You have long days as well. You go to school in the morning, you get out around 1:30, you go right to practice, get on the ice, you practice. This is for the high school guys. And then you stay after practice, you do your workout, and then you're home around 5:36. So, for your first couple of years in the OHL, you have really long days, and you struggle often to find a balance between school and hockey.
And just how important is it to have a, I guess, educator on the team, or, someone to reach out to when you do have struggles, with prioritizing?
It's super important. For my first 2 years here, when I've been in high school, we have a phenomenal guidance counselor who anytime we need anything, we can reach out to her, and she'll talk to our teachers for us, try to get us extensions, or talk to them and try to get them to give us notes or something that we can take on the road to help us with our homework. As long as you show respect and you put in an effort with your teachers and at school, they're willing to do anything for you because they know that you're trying and that you're respecting the school and the staff. So having that resource is super important. And quite frankly, I don't know what I would have done without our guidance counselor, Miss Holton.
And last question here, do you have any advice for, I guess, young hockey players that may look up to you?
Yeah, definitely. The first thing I can say is, it sounds like a bit of a cliche, but if you work hard enough, if you put your head down and don't listen to other people and believe in yourself, you'll be surprised at how far you can make it. Obviously, talent isn't always natural, but some of it can be developed through hard work. And then the other thing is just also, it's quite cliche, but don't give up. Like, you see a lot of guys going through the OHL undrafted, like Duncan Keith. He went through the OHL undrafted, signed as a free agent. He was a second round pick in the NHL, and he's won 3 Stanley Cups now. There's guys who don't get drafted their first go round in the NHL and get drafted in their second or third year of eligibility. So it's a combination of working hard and believing in yourself. Because no matter how much other people believe in you, if you don't believe in yourself, you won't develop, you won't get any better. So as long as you can put your head down and go to work, and while you're doing it, believe that you're getting better, you can go far.
Well, I'd like to thank Jake Murray for joining me on today's Pagcast. Thank you again, Jake.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.